first of all, we'd like to say welcome to Empowering Voices, Alderperson Sandi Jackson. We're very honored that you would take the time during this critical period for our community to talk with us. And I know you have been busy throughout the day listening to the concerns of the citizens in the community. What have they been voicing to you today?
Well, everyone is very concerned about the level of crime that seems to be happening in the community. They're very concerned that it appears as if it's on the increase, despite police reports that it's on the decrease. They want to know what it is they can do as a community to take back their community. They want to know what it is they can do to be helpful in these efforts, because they know that their elected persons can't do it alone. They know the police can't do it alone. They know it's going to take a holistic effort from community members, schools, churches, elected people, all of us together to try to bring this kind of violence to an end.
We're wanting to know exactly from you as the alderperson, how are you going to be able to holistically bring everyone together so that the children, as we heard one child say earlier, so that she will feel safe and the rest of the children will feel safe?
The first thing we did towards that effort was to hold a town hall meeting where we invited not just residents from the 7th Ward, but residents from all over the city to come in and talk about what's happening in our community. I think the first step towards resolving an issue is to educate people on what that issue is. People needed to be able to come together and talk about what's plaguing them, talk about what's happening on the ground as opposed to what is being seen on TV. A lot of people were very concerned in our community that the focus was being put on other communities up north and not on the community here. They were concerned that the attention was being diverted to areas that weren't suffering from the same kinds of crime or the same level of crime that our area is suffering from. So through that town hall meeting, we heard from residents. We probably had close to 2,000 people turn out this evening to talk with me and our police commanders and Superintendent Jody Weiss about what's going on. But not only did they hear from them, but they got a chance to talk about what is happening in their front yards and what can be done. That for them was a critical issue. What can be done and how can we be instrumental in bringing about change? So once we went through that dialogue with them, the police superintendent then got up to talk about the initiatives that the police were engaged in. But that wasn't enough, because our residents feel as if the initiatives aren't going far enough. They want to know what more can be done by way of police work and community work. And that's really where the difficult work begins. We know that these problems did not start yesterday. They didn't start 2 months ago. These are problems that have been plaguing our community for years, but we know we're in a crisis now, and it's going to take everybody, as Cliff Kelly said, to focus in on this like a laser and do something about it now. So what we're asking parents to do now is to take a more engaged stance when it comes to their children. They have to be more responsible for what their kids are doing every day. I can't be responsible for their children. Schools can't be responsible for their children. And the police cannot be responsible for parenting. Parents have got to parent. Towards that end, we've got to get parenting classes to people who need and want it, because we've got a lot of young parents that don't know how to be parents. It's easy to have a baby, but it's hard to be a mom and a dad. On the governmental side, we need to find the funding that these communities need to provide community centers so that our children have places to go, safe places to go after school, something that can help them to organize the energies that they have, creative energies. And if you have a 6-year-old son like I do, you know, the little boy energy that they have to wear off, because that's the nature of children. And so they need a safe place to go to be children. And towards that effort, we've got to find a way to support our police officers as well. We've been asking about federal funding and what is happening with that stimulus money that the city was supposed to get to hire more police officers. When did that money come in, if it did come in? And when are those officers going to be hired? When can we expect them here in our community? And how can we guarantee that those officers will actually end up here and not someplace where the crime rate is not as high as what it is here? And so towards that end, and I'll wrap it up with this, we introduced an ordinance back in early March calling for the redeployment of police officers from areas that are not considered high crime to areas that are high crime. We're looking forward to re-engaging that process because when it was introduced in committee, it was tabled. We want to see that process reinvigorated so that we can get those police officers down here where they're sorely needed. We should not have to have incidences like we did where the young man unfortunately lost his life just because he was walking home from school and stopped to see what was going on. Those sorts of things should not be happening, and that unfortunately right now is the mechanism that's being used to draw attention to a problem that's been here for a very long time.
Thank you very much for your efforts, and as we conclude this conversation, we know that the work that you're pursuing here throughout within your context, and we are preparing to hold a rally on Sunday on October 12th at Trinity, where students, young people from across the Chicagoland area will be able to give their voice. And as we conclude this conversation, what would you like to say to the community in cyberspace about youth violence and how we can stop it?
You know, I want to applaud first the efforts of all the youth that are out there doing the right thing, that are studying hard, that are staying focused on their futures, that are trying to bring something worthwhile back to their community. I don't want to leave the impression that every young African-American student is a bad kid. They are not. We've got a lot of great kids out there, and we should be holding them up and showcasing them to the world. That's the first thing. The second thing is I want to encourage kids who are standing at the margins to not give up, to not give in to these forces that are constantly trying to pull them in and make them think as if they have no other choice but to participate in these bad acts. They do have a choice. And now is a time where they have to make the choice, because what they do today will affect their lives for the rest of their lives. The decisions that they make today will have an impact on everything they're able to do from this day forward. There are no more room for mistakes. Today is the day to make the decision. There are people like me who are willing to stand beside them and to work hand in hand to make the change. But they need to know that today makes all the difference in the world. What they do today will affect not just their tomorrows, but all of our tomorrows.
Thank you for making transformational change.
You're welcome. You're welcome.